I'm Alison Gillwald from Research ICT Africa, which is an African-wide ICT policy and regulatory research network, which is established to try and fill the gap in research and indicators necessary for informed evidence-based policy. I'm also an adjunct professor at the University of Cape Town. The Graduate School of Business has an infrastructures reform and regulation program, which also seeks to fill the gap and train regulators and decision makers in the area of ICT policy and regulation and other infrastructures. For this reason, it's very exciting to have the International Institute of Communications hold their annual conference in South Africa and in Africa, because generally it's very difficult for African decision makers, African stakeholders, civil society members in the area of ICT to get to international conferences and engage on international issues and in the international fora that determine the agendas around ICT policy, regulation and market developments. I think that the issues that can be addressed in this context will give them a particularly African flavour. I think we tend to look to Europe in particular as Africans, but also obviously to other Northern Hemisphere jurisdictions for policy information. And while there's no need to reinvent the wheel on every issue, the context of Africa, the particular resource constraints that exist in Africa, mean that we've got a particular need here that will affect the way we look at these issues. And I think it's going to be very useful to look at the prominent issues of the day from that context. So if we take things that are very topical at the moment, like broadband, for example, the issues of broadband are as critical in Africa as they are elsewhere, but we lag far behind. We are by far the lowest rate in terms of penetration in the world, region in the world. Even a country as developed as South Africa only has about 15% internet and even less in terms of broadband connectivity. So raising these issues, how we fund infrastructures in the African context, how we create the correct regulatory environments, the institutional capacity and arrangements we need in order to have effective regulation, the need to open markets and get private investment to drive these new infrastructures that are required are all going to be very useful to have in the context of a global discussion on international participants.